Before you start, go ahead and subscribe to Anime King 3. Link will be in the top of the description. Go ahead and enjoy, guys. I'll be posting what if Naruto was betrayed by Hagoromo over there very soon. So stay in tune for that, click that red subscribe button, and turn on bell notification to be notified the moment I post it. But as for now on Anime King, I'm gonna be giving you part 16 of what if Naruto was the same age as Itachi. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, stay in tune for what if Naruto was blamed and it changed them guys on this channel. And also, if you're new, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and go ahead and check out Anime King 3 guys, link will be in the description. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, as Mei took on Sorcery, the both of them started to clash as Sorcery was using his puppet at his advantage. As he tried to best her knowing that he was underwater with her and she couldn't really use that lava to her advantage against him. But Mei wasn't the Kage for nothing. Meanwhile that was going on as Naruto was clashing with Deidara. As Naruto was on top of the water and Deidara bird kept on going after his Harashin markers and eating them and then exploding. As Naruto saw Deidara prepare some sort of a bird, a small miniature bird that he wrapped up in his arms, he then dropped it. The sandbar released a Biju bomb as it was frustrated by being kept down and being out of the fray. The Biju bomb and the thing exploded, blowing away everything, smacking the sandbar deep in the water as the thing was knocked unconscious. As Deidara came out, he tried to escape, but Naruto was already on him. As Naruto tricked him, it wasn't Naruto that was fighting him, it was just a clone. As the Envus had gotten away to safety, and Naruto clones were dealing with everything. Yes, they were the ones that were holding up the ceiling matrix. As he managed to subdue Deidara and knock him down. As he was going to take him as captive to find out what he knows about the Akatsuki. Mei then came back as she dealt with sorcery. She even incinerated his heart, what was left of him. After all, she was a Kage. She wasn't just some weakling that he think he could turn into a puppet. As Naruto spoke to her, as he wanted to keep the three tails. As Mei told him that he's here with her. In her village, swarmed with ninjas. As Naruto spoke to her though about the trade agreement. As she was going to give him the three tails, but when she comes to Konoha and the things that she was going to demand, well, it will be beneficial for her village. As Naruto knew that she would demand a lot. But still, he was going to keep the three tails. Going back to Konoha as the council members want to put the three tails and make a new Jinchuriki, but Naruto asked them if they were willing to give up any of their child. And that shut them up rather quickly. And with that, Naruto has been walking around the seal, the giant scroll, on his back. As he went and met up with his team, and he also trained them a bit, as they were trying to figure out what was in that scroll. As Jiraiya also found some information about Aya's, yes, family, as they've been seeing a woman, yes, in a part of a village with incredible speed, as she also fell in love with a man there. He is not fast as her, so Jiraiya is going to keep on the trail. As Naruto went to sleep that night, Naruto was snapped awake as he felt something was wrong. As he made his way out of the bed, something was wrong, the scroll was missing. He could feel the Harashin marker but he felt scramble, as he didn't really understand. So he simply went after it. As he went down, there was a tunnel system under Konoha. He couldn't understand where this came from, as in his entire time of being an Envu, he never noticed this tunnel system. As Naruto went down there to see a girl, as the three tails were being placed inside of her. As some guys were there with masses, as Naruto came to the conclusion, Danzo. As they attacked Naruto, but Naruto was in no time to play in the game with them, as he struck them down. As he went over to the girl, the ceiling matrix was horrible and poorly set up, so Naruto had to intervene and fix it so it wouldn't kill her. When he was finished though, Naruto noticed something as he removed her mask. Blonde hair. But what Naruto got furious at was seeing the marks in her cheek. Within a time skip, as Hiruzen and Jiraiya was called, the office was getting hotter and hotter. The rage that was coming from Naruto as he told him that he was going to kill Danzo. Hiruzen tried to calm him because he had no proof, even though Hiruzen knew that his former teammate was behind this. Because Naruto killed the members down there and rescued this girl, Danzo was not involved. But Naruto was furious as he told Hiruzen that he was a Hokage, as Jiraiya could feel the rage leaking from the boy, as it was his sister after all. All these years, his sister was taken and turned into a puppet by Danzo. So yeah guys, so it's basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So, what do you say begin this new episode? I am the Hokage, said Naruto. And Terrence, really, sitting in comfortable chairs for too long. I'm sorry Naruto, but when it comes to this matter, we have to tread very carefully, said Hiruzen. So what, said Naruto? He gets away with it? All of this? My sister suffering? That organization that he built, the other children's, torn from their families. As Naruto saw the Abermi and the Yamanaka techniques after all. When word started to get out, he wouldn't be the only one calling for blood. Before Hiruzen could answer, Komaki burst in the room. She was one of the first people he called after he left the underground complex. Firstly to wake and collect Snazzy, Jiraiya and Hiruzen. Then to get more envu and find Danzo. As Snazzy was currently at the hospital, making sure that Sakura was okay. Or as okay as she can be after 15 years of Danzo's Chimera. It was probably best that she was kept busy with that, because it seems like she also wanted to hunt Danzo. I'm sorry Hokage-sama, we searched the entire village. There is no sign of Chimera. As Naruto turned towards her, Reis, the Hyugas, and the Inuzakas, tell them I want search parties immediately. He will be found and captured. Komaki nodded and quickly left. Character orders. Innocent man, do not run, said Naruto. Time skip, fire could only burn for so long. And the moment Naruto was there to see his sister, see that she was alive, the fire welled down, and it broke. Snadia declared her as healthy as can be, physically at least. Her mental situation would be evaluated though, the moment she wake up. But given the fact that she just went through a ritual of being placed with a Bijou and turned into a Jinchuriki at twice the age that was recommended, it was uncertain. Naruto was almost afraid to approach her, scared that it might turn out to be some dream or some sick illusion. Really though, he was sure that he deserved to. You were alive all this time, and I didn't even know. I was supposed to be there for you, to protect you, to help you grow up. As his eyes became watery, you would have helped me heal, and I would have raised you. We would have been our own little family. As he moved on, he ran a hand through her hair, spiky and blonde, like their father. But that was stolen from us. You were stolen from me. From the life that you were supposed to have. The rational part of his mind knew that there was nothing a 7-year-old could do. But that wasn't the part that was controlling him at the moment, as he was blaming himself. If he had just tried harder, if he hadn't given up so quickly. For most of his life, the girl in front of him has been nothing but a name on a memorial. Something that never came through. What was she to him now? What was he to her? Hey, he had heard Uncle enter but he didn't bother to get up. She's back, he whispered. I know, like a miracle, huh, said Uncle. He could tell that Uncle did not know how to react to this, just like how he did, but he was thankful for their support. What's going on, brother? Haya asked as she grabbed his arm. I thought we were going on a field trip today. He had completely forgotten about Haya's clan. It could be the difference of ever seeing her family again. But his sister, he couldn't just leave her. As he squeezed her hand lightly. Hey, Speedster, you... As he stopped himself. But he went on. You like Uncle and me, right? She had a confused look on her face. Of course I love the both of you, she said. You like it here, in Konoha, right? She nodded, still confused. So, if you had to stay here for a little while longer. Oh, I would leave here forever, she said. You guys are my family. As Uncle squeezed him gently to go on. Then, that trip might have to wait a while, okay? Haya nodded uncertainly. And to prevent her from thinking about it too much, he swept her up in his arms. There's someone I want you to meet, okay? This is my little sister, Sakura. As Haya's eyes went wide. Whoa, she's pretty. As Naruto choked back a sob, hiding behind a friendly smile. Yes, she is. She's been gone for a long time, and she's not well, so we need to be there for her, alright? Me too, Haya asked. She's gonna need a little sister to teach her all sorts of things. When she wakes up, she might not know some stuff, and it might take some patience. So I'll need you to be strong, okay? I can do that, said Haya, as she nodded, as she could feel the mood in the room. But she would love to have an older sister to play with, like Ami. As Naruto hugged her, he planned to kiss on her forehead. Thanks, Speedster. I can always count on you, can I? Speaking of which, I think we should give Naruto some time alone with his sister, okay? I look upset by that, but one look at Anko as she just nodded. As Anko picked her up as both of them leave the room. As Anko paused at the door, she turned and smiled towards Naruto. Remember, no matter what, this is a good thing. As she closed the door behind her. But Naruto was uncertain of what would happen when she finally wake up. Uncertain what he could do for her, or what she could need from him. Uncertain that he could even give it to her. He hadn't felt this loss since that horrific night so many years ago. Slowly, and without even realizing it, his hands started to go through hand signs. There was something that he has been saving for a very long time, for a very specific moment in his life. He never thought he would use it this soon, but he couldn't think of another time when he would need it more. As he took a deep breath and he stopped going through hand signs, the room glowed for a moment as ink swirled in his palm, as it went down the length of his arm. When it was complete, he placed his hand on the seal on his stomach and twisted it. Naruto woke up inside the seal. It hasn't improved since the one time that he entered it. When he was a child, he had confronted the beast, the one that tore his world apart, that took his parents from him and his sister. He had come out of that interaction with nothing but disappointment. The fox was an asshole. Simple as that. When an angry little human entered escape, it simply ignored him. It didn't seem to have changed that at all, only slightly lifting his head. The Kyuubi was just as large as you remember, but he had grown up a lot from that moment when he was scared back then. The seal itself kept his chakra, and its unbearable presence locked up. There was less to fear from the creature than an ordinary fox after all now. The seal kept it firmly away. But the Kyuubi wasn't what he was here for though, as he focused on the seal around his arm. A few tweaked to it. It made the seal think that certain conditions had been met, without even triggering them. So at the moment the seal believed that a large amount of the chakra of the fox was being leaked out, and the barrier had been unlocked. And with the seal being tricked into that, two figures appeared. As Naruto felt their chakra, before he even turned to see them. As tears started to fill his eyes, before he slowly turned his body. Standing there was his mother and father. "Hi Mom." "Hi Dad," he said. Naruto was not expecting the tackle, and he was knocked over by the blur that slammed into his chest. All he saw was red hair, as she was squeezing the life out of him, hugging him tight. "My little Naruto-chan," said Kushina as he held him tight, as she pulled back and turned his face to the left and to the right, and lifted and lowered. "Well, not so little now," she said. Her gaze softened as she leaned back in, wrapping her arms around him and holding him there. "I missed you growing up." "Hi to you too, Mom," said Naruto, as he glanced behind her. "Hey Dad," he said. Minato nodded as he made his way forward a bit awkwardly. "Son," he said. As Kushina snapped upright, "Is that any way to greet her Naruto after this time? All this time? You big damn flake," she said. Minato wavered in place, looking far from the fearsome Hokage. World, remember him as. But Naruto was okay with that though. This was the father that he remembered. "Well, I don't know how he feels about me, after what I did." As he gave a weak smile, "I don't want to get punched or..." He couldn't get a finish yet as Kushina launched off Naruto and punched him in the stomach. "There, problem solved," she said. "Now man up and come greet her son." "Believe it," she said. A winded Minato made his way over as Naruto picked himself off the ground smiling. "For the record, I probably wouldn't have hit you. I have sort of gotten over it by now." Minato stepped forward as he hugged his son, but he had to stop as a fist slammed into his stomach. "Sort of," said Naruto. "Well, I deserve that," Minato gasped. But Naruto pulled him up and wrapped him in a hug. "I missed you, Dad." Said a voice. As the both of them turned, as Naruto extended his other arm, as Kushina rushed forward and enveloped the two of them as well, coming into the family hug. "I missed you both so much," said Naruto. He wasn't sure how long they stayed in that embrace, but it was Minato who pulled away. "I have to ask, son. Well, how do you know about us?" "Well, I didn't drop my studies after you guys were... Well, Seal has been my study for the last 12 years, and I had a lot of time to examine this one, so it was only a matter of time before I figure out what you have done." Minato looked at him, but mentioned their own Jinchuriki seal. "Even for this, it's a bit dangerous," said Naruto. "Probably, but trust me, I know my own seal inside and out. I even made a few modifications to prevent too much of the fox chakra leaking into my system. Still not completely sure why you did that, by the way." Minato rubbed the back of his head, avoiding the stare from his wife. "I was hoping that you would use that power to become stronger. Clearly, you don't need it." "Can't say it didn't come in handy a few times. I never lacked for energy," said Naruto. At that, Kushner gained a expression that Jerry would have had. I imagine that any lady friends you might have had, certainly, wouldn't have any complaints about that. As her son and husband's face became red, as she burst out laughing, "You two are just alike," she said. As both of them turned to realize they were rubbing back with their head at the same time. It really was strange. Naruto was almost 20, so his parents here as they look was only a few years older than him. He and Minato looked like they could be brothers. So people tell me, he admitted. His blush not really dying down, as he reached in one of his pockets and pulled the Harishnin kunai, as he threw it towards Minato, who caught it. As he examined it, in more ways than one, it seems. You guys have no idea how long I've waited for this moment. Ever since I realized what you guys had first done with the seal, I was saving it, knowing this can only happen once. I wasn't going to use it so soon. I wanted to wait and make sure I can tell you guys everything. I could have told you about my wedding, let you guys know the name of my grandchild, or grandchildren. I wanted to make sure I had done everything, so that I could make you guys proud. Naruto said, Kushina, I don't care what you do. I don't care who you choose to love. I don't even care if you became a shinobi or not. I would always be proud of you no matter what, whether it was today or decades. You will still be my little Sasuke, and I would cherish this moment just as much. I don't know how much I deserve that. I came here for a reason. I'd never feel so lost in my entire life, and I just didn't know where else to turn. Still, even though he felt that way, one look in his mother's face put that aside for the moment. It was that same look, so full of warmth and unconditional love from her. She gently pulled him to the floor. At some point, the place had shifted from the dank, sewer-like place where the Kyuubi was, as they were in some kind of void that was bright. As she sat across from him with his father. Tell us about it, she said. So he did. He told him everything he could, from the sealing of the standby, to discovering about his sister, and the impromptu Jinjulki ritual. He explained how he thought that Sakura had been dead this entire time, something that troubled the both of them deeply, and shared his uncertainty how to move forward. His parents seemed impressed by his various exploits, but they held their silence and let him tell his story. It's just, I had a whole life to learn everything I need. A lifetime for being a shinobi, with guidance from the right people at the right time. A lifetime coming in terms with the woman I love. About showing her that as well. I even been eased to having a team. Learn how to deal with subordinates from Anvu, and children from my own Genin's days. Everything came at the proper time. But I don't know how to be a brother. I feel like that opportunity was stolen from me, from her. As he looked at his parents, Minato smiled. Naruto, life just isn't like that. I remember when Kushina first told me that I was going to be a father. We were both still so young. I was thinking about my career and where I stood in the world. The war was just winding down, and Hirsun started to take personal interest in me. Jiraiya Sensei was hardly sudden, with his hinting that I was being groomed for the hat. Then you came along, a little bundle of chaos. Don't get me wrong, he said. I was thrilled. I never really had anything like a family before. Your grandparents passed when I was very young. But that didn't change. I felt unprepared for anything like you, he said, as he was still smiling while talking. What you told us about Sakura, I thought that she had died too. But do not let the unexpected situation distract you from the fact that yes, while the opportunity was taken away from you, that does not mean the one that you have been presented with is any less insignificant. You have your sister back, our daughter is still alive, and while the circumstances aren't ideal. Kushina nodded. If I wasn't just a chakra imprint, I would be out there strangling that one-eyed bastard myself. As Minato smiled, you can't treat this like anything less than it is. An opportunity to reclaim something that you thought you would never have. And from everything you told us so far, I have no doubts that you will handle this as splendid as you have everything else. As he placed both hands on Naruto's shoulder after shuffling closer. Have faith in yourself, Naruto, because the both of us have faith in you as well. It's gonna be real difficult, isn't it? She'll be like a stranger with who knows what in her head about me. I think I'm most afraid that she'll wake up and hate me. I'm not sure if I could deal with that. You will, said Kushina, as she shared nodded Minato. Besides, when has anything been so easy? You think raising a rambunctious kid like you was a walk in the park, as the three of them chuckled. But she's your sister, Naruto. There's a connection there, no matter how buried it might be. I'll tell you something Mito Basen once told me. She said that Uzumaki is more than just a name. It's more than just our red hair, or her ability with seals, or our longevity. It's an understanding that family means more than blood, that it's a connection. She told me as long as another Uzumaki lived, I would never be alone in anything I did. It got me through a really rough time in my life. I think you told me that story when I was a kid, said Naruto. He had forgotten about it. It was so long ago. I understand, I think. It was just so hard though to you guys. There were so many times in my life when I could have used advice. And the knowledge that this would be the last time I see you, he said, with a sad look on his face. Kushina placed her hands on his, not the last time. But I certainly don't want to see you again anytime soon. For a very long time. I want you to have a happy, long life, so you have much more stories to tell us when we see you. But let's not waste time we have now. I want to hear everything. As she sat back, trying to make herself comfy, despite the ground being completely blank. Now, you mentioned grandchildren, she said. Time didn't seem to work well in here. Naruto Sensei told him that he has been only here for a few minutes, but they spent hours talking to each other. But it wasn't long enough though, as he made it through his most important moments in his life. Uncle Itachi Shisui Anfu, his genin, the war, Haya. His child, becoming Okage, the various enemies that he had made, faced and defeated, and the cap of the situation in Mizu. As his parents told him some of the stories that they never managed to tell him while they were around, with their individual respective fates on that night, what they could determine and saw. As he told him about his moments with Hiruzen, messing with his students, being with Uncle, everything. But he felt it as they were slowly going away. As he tried to ignore it though, as he felt in the back of his head, their chakra was running out. Eventually though, they noticed as they glanced at their bodies with worry, as they were fading away, their chakra going away, as they were semi-transparent now, clinging on to the few moments they have left. I don't want you guys to go near to said, barely able to hit his voice above a whisper. You knew this was coming, son. And this is even much more than others would get. Minato informed him as he tried to keep up a brave face, but on the inside, it irked him apart that he would never get to see him again. I am so happy with the man you have grown into. I couldn't ask her anymore, or beg her son, said Kushina, as tears started to stream down her face. Please tell Uncle she has our blessing. She sounds like a wonderful young woman. And tell Sakura that her mother loves her. Her father too, said Minato, as he was struggling to keep his features straight now. And let Hiruzen and Jiraiya know. I don't blame them, said Minato. And remember that, said Kushina as he stepped forward, as Minato stepped forward as well. We love you. And we always will, as they envelop him in a hug, before their bodies fade away as he watched him go. When Naruto opened back his eyes, he was back in the hospital room. As he looked at the clock, only a few minutes had passed. It was like a genjutsu, but the tears on his cheeks were real. He picked himself up and sat in a chair, as he released a long breath. The feeling, since he found out about his sister, that vice that he felt around his heart was still there, but he was relaxing, after talking to his parents. When he finally stood again, his feature was neutral, and his head was clear, as his hands started to light up in warm green chakra. He was no medic name, but he knew enough about war and battle aid to wake someone up from an induced sleep. Tsunade ranted at him endless for this, and he was going beyond a few protocols for doing this by himself, but it was his sister, he needed to do this now. It took a few moments for her to wake up. She didn't look around like she was shocked, she simply picked herself up and sat in the bed. She turned her face towards him, as no emotions could be seen on her face, as she just looked at him. Having her stare at him that way, it was a bit off-putting, as he looked at her, as he lost track of what he was going to say. So he asked, do you know where you are? As she looked at him same way. For a few seconds she said nothing until she spoke. The Konoha Hospital, private ward. She glanced at the window as the early morning sun was peeking through. Room 4E. As the emotionless tone and the feeling like she has never gone through anything but listened to orders her entire life, it made Naruto so angry, as he was hoping that they find that one-eyed bastard from to rip into pieces himself. Do you know who I am? It didn't seem like she heard him, but she spoke. Of course, Hokage-sama. I'm your brother, Sakura, he said softly. It's me, Naruto. She tilted her head up slightly as her eyes fully met his. My name is not Sakura. My recent code was K, and my brother is dead. Your name is Sakura Namikaze. Why do you think your brother is dead? Because I killed him, she said. Time skip. From what we were able to gather, it seems she, and agents like she, was given a monstrous training. I would hesitate to put Elite Anvu through the kind of things I've been seen in her memories. But the incident that she was referring to though, it seemed to be a smaller version of the Bloody Mist ceremony. As Naruto did not look at him, as there was a one-way mirror there, with his sister on the other side. He hated seeing her there in that seat like a criminal. But until they find out what was exactly done to her, This was the best way forward. Do not hesitate for my sake, said Naruto. Inoichi nodded. They were partnered up with another operative at a young age, to be as close as possible with them, operating two-man cells for all their training. A failure by one is seen as a punishment for both, like they were one person, and the punishment was not light at all. Under different circumstances, I would consider it ineffective and a barbaric method of promoting teamwork. Shimura-san apparently thought otherwise though. At the end of their training, they were put against each other to a fight to the death. From what I could tell, it is to put a traumatic break on them, the surviving operative, to make them more accessible and easy for conditional training. So she was brainwashed, said Naruto, as his tone was neutral, not giving away anything. In a sense, but not quite. Brainwashing imply making someone act the way they did not. What Danzo did, it's more like programming from a blank slate. The operative either suffer from an extreme breakdown, or they repress their emotions to the extreme. There are other aspects of our training that promote this as well, so that was the main effect. Harrison told me that the main point of confliction between him and Danzo was the emotion in a shinobi. Harrison believed that he empowered people, allowed them to go beyond what they were even capable of before. Danzo believed that it held them back, constrained them from being a true weapon. Apparently, he decided that a talking debate wasn't good enough. If I can be candid, I've never seen anything like this. Or, if I can fix it, said Inoichi. As Naruto turned, Inoichi backed away. My sister, isn't something to be fixed, he said. He did not raise his voice though. And I understand that, but the words caught in Inoichi's throat. This isn't a case of reversal. Psychic damage. This is all that she knows. Even if we treated the trauma that caused her to repress her emotions. The fact that her entire life all that she has known is brutal training, servant to a sociopathical tyrant, and a complete disregard for human morality. A great deal of fire drained from her eyes after hearing that. Then, we do what we can. For now, I'm releasing her into my custody. I have to argue against the Hokage-sama. The first few days can be the most crucial in how to... Naruto cut him off. I'll be bringing her back here every day, so you can do what you can to help her. But she's coming home with me, where she belongs. Inoichi nodded. Very well. In any case, I should tell you that it's important to maintain a comfortable, not hostile environment around her at all times. Too much stimulant could invoke reactions that I'm not ready to endeavor in. She's my sister, said Naruto. I would give her nothing less. Not to cause any offense, Hokage-sama. I was talking about Uncle. Anything else I should know, said Naruto. Actually, there was one other thing. From the examining of the other root agents you brought in, we were able to identify a particular seal on the back of their tongue. He brought out a piece of paper that one of the Anfus that were in depth in Fuinjutsu had copied. A curse seal, said Naruto. Based on location, it is probably a kill switch if the operative said the wrong thing. I will have to examine it to know for sure. Inoichi nodded as he handed the paper over. We presume that much. But Sakura does seem to have one. Any thoughts why? Naruto looked back at his sister. She didn't even move, not even an inch, because a Uzumaki is too valuable to waste. We are a perfect host for a Jinchuriki. Even saying it left a bitter taste in his mouth. Well, we still have a few tests left to run, but we can release her to your custody tonight. I'm not sure if you all wait, said Naruto. Well, in that case, Ino-chan. Daddy, as she poked her head from around the door. I told you not to call me that while I'm working. Sorry, honey, but I need to show the Hokage to the waiting room. Her eyes widened for a second. She was in front of the village leader, but they recovered. Of course, this way, Hokage-sama. Despite the circumstances and everything was going on, Naruto was who he was, as he smiled at the father messing with his child. As he wondered what his own team was doing at the moment, as he went through the TNI complex. It was a surprisingly nice building from what go on. Great walls and carpeted floors. At Ino, led him to a room with a few comfy couches, and there was a table with a coffee maker and food. As the silence dragged on for a bit long as he turned. So, you're working here now, he said. Well, he really wasn't at his best if that was all he could come up with. But he remembered promoting the girl to Chunin. Some children always follow in their parents' footsteps. So, if her father was doing this, yes, he could imagine her doing this as well. Shadowing my dad, yeah. I would prefer to go into more therapy though. You know, like helping people, but the best study for psychology is in TNI, said Naruto. Yes, it's a lot more hands-on than I thought it would be, but I'm learning a lot. That's good, said Naruto, as he could see that she enjoyed doing what she did. You know, she said, You're nothing like Sakura described you. I thought you'd be a bit more, intimidating. As Naruto gave her a smile, I tried to save that for the people who deserve it. It's nice, she said. I mean, growing up with the third, you start to see the post of Hokage unattainable. He was always the impulsive, wise old man that would visit the academy, always knowing what to say. Seeing someone so... As her cheeks became a bit red, young as a Hokage, is encouraging like the bar is so high, you know? I've never really thought about it, the job sort of snuck upon me. Really? She looked shocked. But you're Naruto Namikaze. Last time I checked, he said. Sorry, she said. But when you meet someone so famous, you just don't accept them to be so human, he said. Yeah, at the same time though, I suppose it's kind of intimidating when the teams were announced. I made a priority to know who everyone thinks they were. The more I found out about you, well, it sort of brings your own achievement into question, doesn't it? As the Sandine keep reminding me, I'm a product of slightly different time. The more I'm reminded, the more I think you guys are better off. He has a way of doing that. Yeah, that's more like what Sakura said you were. As Naruto sit on one of the coaches, as he motioned for her to sit with him. As she sit down, after all, how often does Hokage invite you to have a private chat? So he said, what do my cute little students say about me? An hour later, as Inoichi came to get them, as Naruto was talking and laughing with Ino, his mind was taken off the pressure that was on his shoulders. He could definitely see why she wanted to go into therapy. Thanks, Ino, said Naruto. It's been very nice talking with you. No problem, Naruto-sensei. Oh, when your sister recovers, I'd love to come visit sometime. To get her acquainted with some things, you know, girl stuffs. As Naruto nodded, I think that would be nice, he said. She waved breathless in which let him out. As he arrived, as he saw his sister sitting there, with her hands in her lap. Come on, Sakura, it's time to go home, he said. Time skip, as Sakura looked at a small framed photo, with no emotion passing her features. It was the only photo of her that existed. Well, she was really in it. It showed Minato and Kushina, with Naruto on his father's back, and there was a lump right on Kushina's stomach. As you could see it, wasn't very large though. I remember that day, said Naruto. It was the day my parents told me that I was going to have a little sister. I didn't understand, of course. For the longest time I thought you were going to be a fox, and we were going to get a pet. I got a lot of mixed signal back there, from mom being a Jinjulke, but I remember being really happy with the idea. You know, I remember thinking, it would be a lot of fun to boss you around. I think I was going to teach you some tricks as well. By the time I figured out what having a sister actually meant, well, I don't think my ideas changed all that much. Funny how that worked out. Me being Hokage and you being a shinobi under my command. He looked down, but she didn't even move through his entire speech. If I understand correctly, you're trying to form some kind of bond with me, yes? She could see him trying to repress the winks. He did that oftenly when she spoke. Such poor control of one reaction would have been punishable en route. I am not trying, Sakura. You're my sister. We're family. That is the part I do not understand. What does us being biologically related have to do with any affectations or special considerations? Our relationship, as I understand it, is that you are my Hokage and I'm your tool. All of this, as she glanced at the picture, every time she looked at it, something strange formed back for her mind. She didn't understand. It is unnecessary, she said. You're only saying that because you don't know any better, said Naruto. You're saying that I'm deficient in some matter, she asked. No, said Naruto, as he was in front of her and holding her hands, as she just stood there. I don't think that at all. But what done was done to you. It shouldn't have been this way. You were supposed to grow up with me, make friends, have a family. I was instructed that dwelling on past things that cannot be achieved, would be successful way to die in missions. As Naruto straightened up and pulled her towards the couch with him, holding her. In a way, you're right, he said. She wasn't sure what to make of the situation. Nothing in her training had prepared her for this. But that feeling rose up in her stomach again, so close to this person, the Hokage. She crushed it down. Because feeling was a weakness, emotion was a distraction. Her training hadn't been put to such extensive views since she put a sword through the boy, who was her brother. Time skip. Alright, Sakura, we're going to go through a different scenario now. This was the third Yamanaka that she had been introduced to. Inoichi was only there for a supervisor role, doing much of the planning before giving it off to another member of the assembly. She didn't see much of the point of this. as she was a bit confused. Well, a lot. Her questions were right, but they seemed to disagree with her. As she saw it on their face, they were disappointed. As she knew the emotions, but when it got to her though, that was something else. Very well, she said. Alright, you're in a shop buying food and you notice the clerk is overcharging you. What do? She kept her face restrained, but she can feel the phantom burn of emotion. What was the purpose of this? En route, rations had always been provided as it needed. It was a much more effective system than acquiring food for yourself. She settled her thoughts and pretended like she was on a mission. Strange things always happen on missions. I presume that I do not have the money to buy the overpriced food. Let's say you have the money, the Amnaka said. Then I accept the overpricing. So long as I obtain the food, then there's little purpose in holding extra money. There it was. He always kept a smile on his face, but she could see it in his eyes, disappointment. But what if you want to spend the money on something else? Such as? If they were expecting that she'd get food on her own, they were probably talking about equipments. But she knew that kunais and shurikens were provided to shinobis based on the mission requirements. By definition, anything purchased would not be needed, and it would only be a luxury. And therefore, it is not needed, she said. The man did not sigh the first time, did that a lot, and they had rotated him out. But she could see the subtle shift in their body. Let's say you don't have the money then, the man said. Time skip. Uncle cursed slightly. Her problem was the stairs. She used to have, well, great coordinations and just sliding down. Nowadays she was lucky she could make it down one flight without her ankles swelling up, her back throwing a tantrum, and her feeling nauseous. She was still excited about having a kid, but damn, little brat will have some making up to do for all the hell that she was going through. One of the few upsides about all this was having a partner who could teleport. Honestly, even she was a bit disgusted by some of the odd craving that she was having. But having a partner that could go anywhere in the country to pick up whatever she needed was a blessing. Right now, she was hankering for some melon, after a lifetime of barely touching the fruit. As she paused in the living room, observing the dash of messy blonde hair that was poking over the couch, she tried her best to be tolerant of Naruto's sister. She was supportive of all of this, as she was still able to remember when the loss had been a fresh wound to the red head. But she found the girl, well, outward emotions a bit creepy. She sighed. Naruto clearly wanted to be there for his sister as much as possible, but he was a Hokage and couldn't spend so much time away from the office. That left Sakura alone most of the day. She mostly wandered around the house aimlessly. Often though, she just sat there on the couch. She just sat there doing absolutely nothing. Never thought about getting a hobby. What do you mean, said Sakura, as uncle went and sit on the couch. You know, something to do when you can't be around other people. I've been prohibited from training until my evaluations are complete. Training is not a hobby. Unless your name was My Guy, she thought to herself. Hobbies are, she blinked, trying to find the best way to explain. Yes, hobbies are a best way to blow off steam when other aspects of your life become too stressful. Operatives are encouraged to engage in physical activity when undergoing stress. And you're back to training. Hobbies are something to do for the pleasure of just doing it, not for any goal or anything like that. I assume that you don't mean the satisfied feeling of completing a new task or a new technique. No, I mean actual pleasure. For instance, I enjoy a good tea ceremony, and I spend a lot of time learning how to perform many varieties. I do it because it's relaxing, not that I would get any particular utility out of it. I can think of many useful skills the knowledge of tea ceremony provides. Uncle clicked her tongue irritably. How can I put this in a way that you will understand? I assume they made you pretty good with kunais en route. All operatives were required to have skills with a number of different weapons. I personally had accurate skills and accuracy in shuriken jutsu. See, now if I didn't know any better, I would assume that was a hint of pride poking out of your mask. Sakura said nothing this, just turned to her blankly. Right, so you can hit a target, that's a useful skill. Do me a favor and grab some of those rubber balls that Naruto keep in his study. I was specifically informed that the study was off limit. I cannot dispose of an order from the Hokage. It is a chain of command. Uncle grinned as she moved closer to the girl, as she put her arm on her shoulder. But you're his little sister. Little sisters always disobey big brothers. He wants you to be his little sister a lot more than he wants you to be his subordinate, right? Yes, he has made that very clear. Good. Then go and get the balls. A crease came in Sakura's brow as she looked at Uncle before she got up and hurried up the stairs. She then came back down the box of the rubber balls. This feels irregular. That's spirit. Now watch me closely. as Uncle picked 3 balls out of the box, grunting a bit. Can you see the utility in this as he started to juggle them? As Sakura watched as Uncle threw them around and catch them, I can see how the hand movement will improve, hand coordination and dexterity. You're thinking too mechanically. Can you see any other use in the act itself? No, it seemed to be a rather useless skill. Good, said Uncle as she threw them towards Sakura. As she caught them, now, you try. As Sakura looked at her, and this is a hobby? Hobbies are things you recently do that don't really prove any point to increase any kind of skill, because that is the way you see things. You're good at throwing kunais. You should be pretty good with throwing and juggling. As she tried to do the same thing Uncle did, but the balls simply landed all around her. As Uncle burst out laughing, she wasn't sure what the feeling this she felt in her stomach when the balls dropped from her and Uncle laughed. As she wasn't so sure, but she didn't clamp it down. She pulled 3 more balls as she tried again. This time she catch one. As her face frowned just the slightest, as she spent the next few minutes doing it. After a few minutes though, she was able to do it perfectly like Uncle did, as she felt a new feeling in her stomach. As she felt bubbly. What was this feeling, she wondered. That is called pride, Uncle said, as Sakura didn't even notice that she was smiling, a tiny smile. Is that the purpose of hobbies? In part, said Uncle as she pulled another ball and threw it, knocking away the balls that Sakura was juggling. That felt unnecessarily disruptive. If that is your way of saying you find me annoying, then you're learning. Now, do it with 4. Time skip. When Naruto came home, as he found a curious sight, Sakura was in the living room with the rubber balls that he used to train with the Rasengan. As she was focused, as she was juggling 5 balls, as she threw them up, but she caught 4 as the other one bounced a bit too high and knocked away across the room. As Naruto saw, a bit of irritation came over her face. That was the first. As she went to pick up another ball, she didn't even acknowledge his entrance with a Hokage-sama she normally did. What's going on, he said. I have a hobby, she said. It serves no purpose. I can see that. You're very good, said Naruto, as she lost the ball again. As he saw the slight frown once again. I'll let you keep at it then, said Naruto, as Uncle was in the kitchen eating a dough. A raw cookie dough. You're doing, I take it, said Naruto. Those guys at TNI may be good with messing with people's heads, but I think they're missing a tick when it comes to her. They're trying to rehabilitate something she never had in the first place. I think she just needs times to discover all the things that she might have had. She looked up and kissed him. And who understand being childish than me? Can't argue with that, said Naruto, as he turned back towards his sister. He then jerked towards the stairs. Where are you going, asked Uncle. Are you kidding? I'm getting a camera, he said. Time skip. As Sakura tried to keep a smile on her face, she walked around the village, as she was recommended by her therapist, not that she liked to use the term, that to try emotions a bit more. It seems like people didn't like it when she walked around the skull in her face. It really was strange. They wanted her to show her emotions. That was everything different from what she was taught while she was being grown up. But people clearly didn't like seeing negative ones. So a slightly forced smile it was, as she was somewhat proud of it. At least she thought she was. She had practiced this smile in the mirror over the past weeks, and she figured she had it down. People seemed more accepting of her when she smiled at them, but when she also smiled at during things like this, social events still perplex her. Even after 3 months with her brother, she was still coming to terms with that. So when a few girls her age, all of them familiar with Naruto, asked her to come out with them, she was not sure what to expect. Shopping clothes and all that. Yes, she never did this before. But she knew that it was expected for teenagers. Uncle had been providing her with all kinds of books that told her about these things, but she never thought that she would engage with it herself. She had a perfectly functional set of clothes, and her brother had provided more whenever she asked, going out and getting them herself, while also the girls, obnoxious wimp and all that, seemed rather pointless. Or perhaps she was just annoyed that they interrupted her drawing. When he saw her calm down, and he calmed down himself from her juggling, Naruto showed her all kinds of activities. She was now up to 9 balls with her juggling. But she found something interesting about sketching. Capturing an object with her eye and transferring that to a page. It seems perfect for her. She now had a large sketchbook, as she already had the excellent hand coordination. So it was about her to draw what she saw, as she really liked birds. You're doing it again, Sakura. A voice to her right snapped her from her thoughts. If you keep on Space Note like that, you'll walk into a wall. She didn't bother to face the purple hair girl, as she was the most annoying. It is unlikely to walk into a wall. It is common route procedure to learn how to navigate changing environments with a blindfold. If anything, the matter that you turn to talk to me will involve you walking into a wall. Wow, if you did not say it in that tone, I would almost take this as a comeback, said Ami. She's right, said Ino. I'm surprised that you haven't tripped over your own feet, or that ridiculous sword of yours. It's not ridiculous, it's my sister's. I just haven't grown into it yet. You never did say why you switched. I thought your old sword was fine, said Sakura. It was more of a practice sword, too light for the style I use now. Better to adapt to a heavy sword that you can grow into, than to switch of the lighter ones. That is indeed how operatives are encouraged to train in route, said Sakura. She found if she regularly engaged with the conversation, they didn't mind that she didn't talk more. See, she gets it, said Ami. Well, sorry if Sakura and I aren't included in the world of Kinjutsu. We have more interest than swinging around a metal bar. We will see how interesting my metal bar is when it's embedded between those special lumps of yours, said Ami, as Ino brought her arms up to her chest, as Sakura watched the entire thing. She had come to understand that these three were friends, a concept that means teammates you have outside of missions. But between their remarks and their curse of one another, she could see how fatal that could be on a mission. This could not be true that they were friends. And their obsession with their appearances was also absurd. Breast size seemed to be the most concern for them. Sakura had taken to the fact of binding her chest when they had grown too large to impede her training. On the other hand, she understood the figure that Ino had that was more reliable in a seduction role. So, Sakura, have you seen anything you like yet? Asked Ino. I still don't understand which of the clothing fabrics I'm supposed to prefer. The colors seem arbitrary. And when I try to argue for utility, I am told that those choices are drag for whatever reason. It's not about which clothes you're supposed to prefer. You're supposed to just choose whatever you like. And what you look cute in, said Ino. That term seemed rather subjective from the many sources I've gathered. Tell me about it, said Sakura. Have you seen Ino clothes? As if you can talk, forehead. You wear that white circle so much. It's like you're trying to create Haruno crest. Huh? What's wrong with what I wear? Asked Sakura. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want the next part of this, or not do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on bell notifications stay posted. And also go ahead and check out Anime King 3, guys. And subscribe, and thank you. I'm off now. Peace.